Sato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityorma amritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om. Peace. 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 The subject of my talk today is purifying the body and mind. Some of you might be knowing that this is the season of Ramadan, that means a Muslim month of practicing austerity. So let me talk a little bit about this Ramadan. In India it is called Ramjan also. So probably according to Arabic language it is Ramadan. The Muslim holy month of Ramadan already have started last week, and most of the world's 1.6 billion Muslims are observing or will be observing this week, rather this month. Ramadan is the most sacred month of the year for Muslims. The Prophet Muhammad reportedly said, quote, when the month of Ramadan starts, the gates of heaven are opened and the gates of hell are closed. Muslims believe it was during this month that God revealed the first verses of the Quran, Islam's sacred text, to Muhammad on a night known as the Night of Power. And during the entire month of Ramadan, Muslims fast every day from sunrise to sunset. It is meant to be a time of spiritual discipline, of deep contemplation of one's relationship with God, extra prayer, increased charity and generosity, and intense study of the Quran. So this month is earmarked for intense spiritual practice for the followers of Islam. At the end of Ramadan, there is a big 3-day celebration called Eid al-Fitr, or the festival of breaking of the fast. It may be compared with the Christmas of Christians. Now the point is that how the austerities is done. How does fasting work? You know, fasting is important, or it is said to be important from the point of view of health also. And in every religion, from the point of view of practicing austerity also, fasting is recommended. Fasting during Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars or duties of Islam, along with the testimony of faith, prayer, charitable giving, and making pilgrimage to Mecca. So 5 acts of religious austerity. It is not exactly compulsory, because nothing can be made compulsory. So it is like that they are highly recommended, you can say. That first is this, that means fasting during the Ramadan, then along with testimony of faith, great faith in Islam, then prayer, charitable giving, and making pilgrimage to Mecca. So it is said that once in one's life, that means Muslims believe that it is important to go to Mecca once in one's own life. So you'll see that in Mecca during this time or other times also, millions, that means people go, Muslims go in millions to offer their prayers. Now the point is that this type of austerities are recommended in other religion also, but in Ramadan the speciality is that during Ramadan Muslims abstain from eating any food, drinking any liquids from what is called from in the daytime, and they are also supposed to try to curb negative thoughts and emotions like jealousy and anger and such other things. So there is an example how a typical day will be during the Ramadan. Muslims wake up well before the dawn to eat the first meal of the day, which has to last until sunset. So it is a sort of heavy meal that they take before the sunrise. And then of course, the point is that during this time they do not quit work. Muslims are not supposed to avoid work or school or any other normal duties during the day just because they are fasting. That is also important to know, because it is hardship. You cannot drink anything, you cannot eat anything from sunrise to sunset. So it is a hardship. But it doesn't mean that you can quit your work during this time. But in some Muslim countries there is some sort of relaxation in the duties. And also definitely for children and others who are incapable physically, cannot observe this type of fasting and austerities, they are exempted, that is the point. Then when the final call of prayer is finally made, they break day's fast with a light meal, a little like snacks. And then later on after the prayers, they take another heavy meal. That means that is the way they do. So before performing the evening prayer, that means they take a snack. Before performing the evening prayer, they take a small snack. And many go to the nearby mosque for evening prayer, and then followed by a special prayer that is also recited during Ramadan. And afterwards, it is followed by a larger meal, and later in the evening, which is often shared with family and friends, and also it rotates. That means one family invite other friends, and another they will go to other family and friends. In that way, it rotates. So this is the custom that is being followed by Muslim followers of Islam in all countries. That means everywhere you will see where there are followers of Islam that do that. I remember we had the opportunity of having one Muslim friend come here and present something about the religion, that means, and also Sufism. So he said that, Swami, I cannot really schedule the talk during this time, Ramadan time, that means in the month of June. Why? He said that, well, I cannot drink water, I have to talk, but if I cannot drink water, how shall I give the talk? So you have to schedule it before this time or after this time, that means before June or after June. Now the point is that these dates actually change. That means it may be June this year, it may be July in another year. In that way, actually, it's what is called the Ramadan month actually travels, if you can say. The reason is this: for religious matters, Muslims follow a lunar calendar, and that is based on the phases of the moon, and whose 12 months add up to approximately 354 days. That means, the lunar month is shorter. So if you add to 12 months, it will be 354 days. And that is 11 days shorter than 365 days of the standard Gregorian calendar. Therefore, the Islamic lunar calendar moves backward approximately 11 days each year in relation to the regular Gregorian calendar. So in that way, every year, actually we'll see it is just 11 days difference is there from the previous year. In that way it travels. So that means that the first day of the month of Ramadan, which is the 9th month of the Islamic lunar calendar, moves backward by about 11 days each year, So it moves, that means slowly it moves. It may be in summer, it may be in winter, in that way actually it happens. So this is the, in a short, the way this Ramadan is observed by the followers of Islam. Now, the main thing is the practice of fasting, and it is recommended, as it is told, for the control of the mind, senses, and that is imperative, or it is advised in all religion. In Christianity also, you know, those who are staunch followers or eager to follow the dictums of Christianity, they also follow Lent. Lent is also 40 days fasting they do during the Easter time. Then Hinduism also, there are many fasting, but Hinduism fasting mostly on particular days. You select one day, or you select one, what is called according to lunar calendar, maybe Ekadashi as the 11th day of the moon or full moon day of the moon. In that way, most people do that. And also there are occasions, that means there is called Durga Puja, which is in the autumn time. 11 days or 10 days fasting, many people do. Many well-known people also do that. 9 days or 10 days, Navaratri as it is called. And then there is also another occasion on the birthdays of great spiritual personalities like Janmashtami. Many people fast on that day. Ram Navami, birth of Rama, that is also observed with fasting. So in that way they do. And another type of fasting is there 1 month long that I have not seen in many places, but in Gujarat it is very common. It is called Shravan Mahinanu Ektana. That means in the month of Shravan, which is the 4th month according to Indian calendar, many people observe fast during the day. Ektanu means eating once. In that way they observe fasting. And in Jainism also it is full of fast and Purifying as it is called. That means they do fasting for 8 days or 10 days according to the what is called what sect of Jainism they are following. And you must be remembering that, or if you have read the life of Mahatma Gandhi, you will see that Mahatma Gandhi used to do a lot of fasting. And for many occasions, that means when there is something very important, or when you feel that he needs to be very controlled, or just to observe a control of mind and other things, he used to do fasting, and that was a part of his practice. Probably he got it from he was born in a family of Vaishnavas, that means Vaishnava families. They also do fasting, especially Janmashtami and other days, as I told, full moon day or 11th day of the new moon. In that way also, new moon and full moon, in that way they do. And also probably the influence of the Jainism, because the area where Mahatma Gandhi was born was really, many people follow Jainism. And one interesting thing probably, I do not know whether you know, recently one doctor from Australia went to Switzerland to end his life. Doctor and also an old person, that 104 years old. So he was quite sane. That means he said that there is no problem with my mind and all those things, but the quality of my life has so deteriorated that I do not want to live any longer. And his country, that means in Australia, you cannot end your life. That means in a normal way. You can shoot yourself, that is fine. That means nobody will know. You can do that. But all those things he did not want. That means with dignity actually he wanted to end his life. And that is really legally possible in Switzerland. So what he did, he left his country and then met his friends in Europe and other places, because he said that my whole family and relations are all scattered all over the world. So then actually he went to Switzerland, and Switzerland there are places, that means there are special hospitals or organizations where they perform this thing. And then he has a doctor, so he did not have any problem, and some sort of chemical was injected, and he himself actually administered that. That means it was just put by a doctor and he had to administer it himself with his own hand. So it is a sort of committing suicide knowingly. So in that way he ended his life, and that is legal. That means it is not that those who helped him in ending his life or will be prosecuted. It is not like that. That means it is legally approved if somebody helps a person who is really sane enough to end his life in this way. So in that way he ended his life, then things ended. And in Jainism actually there is a way, it is legal also. If you just end your life by fasting, that will be accepted. That means legally it will be accepted. And there are many, not many, but there will be occasionally some report that some Jain monk or nun or even ordinary person, religious person ended their life by fasting. That is accepted legally. So this is the way actually fasting or control, as you see, the food occurs. Now, why so much about the fasting? So let us see what there are. The reason is this: in our Upanishad it has been said, Ahara Shuddho, Sattva Shuddhi, Sattva Shuddho Dhruva Smriti, Smriti Lambe Sarva Granthinam Pramaksha. Be Pramaksha. That means, it is in Chandogya Upanishad, means that there is a relationship between food and mind. That means if you want to control your mind, if you just step into, or this is a very regular thing, that means eating and drinking you are doing every day. So if you take care of this eating and drinking, and by this simple method actually you can control your mind. That has been advised in our scriptures. So this verse says, when the food is pure, the mind becomes pure. When the mind is pure, the memory becomes firm. When the memory is firm, all ties are loosened. All ties are loosened means you have what is called, you are on the steps of the liberation of yourself. That means slowly, actually you will gain control over your mind. And as you know, by controlling the mind, actually we can have spiritual growth, and ultimately, if you are lucky, you can have the liberation also. So this is actually, it is important to know that simple thing like the control of the food, actually we can progress in spirituality. And that of course, that we see that has been said or instructed by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. And most of you know about Bhagavad Gita, and we'll see that there are 4 chapters towards the end which has dealt with the gunas. That means 3 gunas. 3 gunas are actually simple, ordinary person's way of practicing spirituality, I can say. That means you need to know what is spirituality, and you need to know where you stand, and you need to know what you have to practice, or where you have to put emphasis, and what you have to quit. So if all those things are clear to you, then actually a person who is pursuing spirituality, by emphasizing the positive things which will lead to the spiritual realization, they can chop out. That means if you are interested, you can really cast your life in that way and give up what is really not necessary, or which are really impediments. So there are 3 gunas, as it is said, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. We call it very often, but you know these things are only in the mind. You cannot really feel those things, Sattva and Rajas and Tamas. Something is Sattva now, something may be Tamas, what is called, afterwards, or something is Sattva to you, it may be Tamas to other. It may happen like that. So the thing is that it is according to the mindset, actually we have to figure out Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And another thing is that it is better to figure out in oneself's mind what is Sattva and Rajas to oneself. If you try to figure out that this person is Tamas, you will say that Tamas, apparently he will see that he is doing something which has been what is called listed as Tamas, but it may not be. So Sattva and Tamas sometimes look like same. Sri Ramakrishna also has said that you will feel that somebody is living in a house, there are not much what is called cleanliness is also not there. There probably his mosquito curtain is has holes and some sort of patches. and also probably he's rising late in the morning, and he does not have too much attention to his dresses also. Apparently he will look like a tamasic person, that means he is not taking care, that means his attention is not there. But he is saying that those things may happen to a person who actually has dedicated his mind or always employing his mind in doing spiritual practices. That means he is not paying attention. He does not have time to pay attention to those things. In that way it may happen. But apparently our mind may not figure out actually what is happening inside his mind and why he is doing like that, and we may wrongly conclude that this person is a tamasic person. So the point is this, that means instead of judging others through these gunas, it is better to judge oneself where we stand. That is my point. So this is, it has been said that, as I told you, food is one of the simple things that we eat every day, and in that way, Lord Krishna has said, it is in the Srodhata Vibhavagadra, that means on the 17th chapter, from verse 7. He has said, Aharostavi sarvasya trividho bhavati priya yagnas tapas tatha danam tesham bhedam imam srinu. That means addressing Lord Krishna addressing Arjuna is saying that, well, please listen to me. There are three types. That means all the things can be divided into three categories. So he is saying about the food, ahara. Ahara, of course, as I told you, is something which is food. Food means that means edible, that means eating, which we eat. And also, especially Shankaracharya believes, or he has said, ahara we have to take in a broader sense. That means whatever is accepted or received by our senses are really ahara. That means etymologically it means that. Ahara means arhiyate iti. That means what you actually receive through your senses. We have five senses, as you know, for reception of knowledge. That means input, as it's called. So in that way, what you are eating or what you are seeing or what you are listening, in that way five senses are there. Whatever is coming or whatever you are accepting through those senses, it is called ahara. But here Lord Krishna is definitely saying about the food. That is true. So he is saying the food also that is dear to all is of three kinds. That means we have our own choices. There are so many restaurants, so many groceries, and not only that, organic food, and then what is called, what not actually. Vegan, non-vegan, dairy, not dairy, too many classifications. So you know, nowadays it is very difficult to, what is called, invite a guest to lunch or dinner. And this thing is like this, I compare it like this, that means you simply, honestly, because you have developed a friendship, so you invite a friend not knowing actually what is his food. So he will come and then actually he will be very choosy and he will also feel disappointed, and also he will feel disappointed by embarrassing situation will be there because so many restrictions you did not know, and he also will feel embarrassed but he did not communicate. In that way, the purpose of the invitation will not be, or rather it will be hampered. If you have good relation, then actually both of you will understand. So it turns down that inviting guests are like this. There is a story in the Aesop Fables, if you remember. There was a great friendship between a crane and a jackal. You know, the jackal becomes so friend and they invited to each other's place. So, you know, food is there, food means their food is completely different. Jackal is from a plate and also chewing things and all those things. So in that way, he invited the crane and had two plates. That means he had one plate and he gave to his crane another plate. So the jackal ate his, then he asked the crane, why you are not eating? Oh, no, I am eating. So his beak is just touching the plate, and as you know that he cannot eat or probably a little bit drink, he can take. So in that way, actually, the what is called the dinner ended. So the crane became a little bit. He also thought that I have to entertain my friend jackal. So what he did, he put some what is called a sort of bottle with full of soups and all those things, and then invited jackal. So he actually put his beak into the bottle and drank the soup and all those things, and he saw that jackal friend is just licking the outside of the bottle. He cannot really go into that. So our situation for the invitation of the friends have become almost like that. That means whatever you offer, you do not know actually whether they will be palatable or acceptable or get approval from your friend. But still we do that. So these are the food is like this. Then Lord Krishna is saying that what is his classification? Classification is that Ayu Sattva Balo Roga Sukha Priti Vivardhana Rasa Snigdha Sthira Hridya Ahara Satika. That means those who are really spiritually oriented. So he has said that this type of food is very conducive for them, and they are like this. The foods that are the foods that augment vitality, energy, vigor, health, joy, and cheerfulness, which are tender, juicy, and tasty, and a little oily. That means like olive, sesame, or walnut, and substantial and agreeable are liked by Sattvika. That is the highest quality. Sattvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika is very simple. That means these are rule of thumb type of thing for spiritual seekers. Sattvika means that means which is conducive for the spiritual growth. So it is good to know, as I told you, that means where you stand in respect of things that you do, and what is the positive thing and what is the negative thing. So just transfer your habits and what is called thinking and all those things from other gunas to the sattvika guna. That is the main purpose of classifying these things. But you see, Lord Krishna is very particular. He has not given a list that is apple, orange, or what is called something like that. But he has given the qualities of the materials that you really need to eat of. Or those who are sattvika, they like that in that way he is saying. That means which augment vitality, energy, vigor, health, joy, and cheerfulness. And are also tender, juicy, and tasty, and also what is called oily, substantial, and agreeable. So this is a food part which is really conducive for spiritual growth. Then actually he is saying about what are the foods that are liked by Rajasika. Rajasika means those who, many people need to do work also, physical work, or also keep themselves engaged. Because life is so tough that you have to earn money or do something, especially in middle age and all those things. So naturally they need certain type of food. So that may not be at that time spiritually conducive, but still it is good to know if you continue to have that habit, and at the same time leading to want to lead a spiritual life, probably it will be good to know what are not conducive for the spiritual growth. So he said that the foods that are bitter, sour, saline, overhot, pungent, dry, and burning are liked by the Rajasika, and are productive of pain, grief, and disease. So these are the types of food. Definitely, it is what is called we like those type of taste. That means it gives some as it is called good taste when we eat those food. That means some people like what is called sour, some people like pungent, some people like burning hot. In that way, there are types of food that are available, and definitely there are customers for that type of food. So what are they? That means they are called Rajasika. And ultimately what will be the effect on the mind if somebody is habituated that? He said pain, grief, and disease. That is the point. That means ultimately if you will eat hot food for a long time, probably you will have ulcer and all those things. It can happen like that. Then if you have what is called bitter and sour, probably bitter, sour food, also that type of thing. Saline, too much saline, blood pressure. There is no other way. That means always first thing to control the blood pressure is to reduce the salt. So in that way, Lord Krishna during his time also found out that these are the ways that one should follow. Now coming to the third category, that means That which is stale, tasteless, stinking, cooked overnight, refuse, and impure is the food liked by the tamasic. So that type of food also is there. That means something which is kept for a long time. Of course, during the time of Lord Krishna, there is no refrigeration, there is no what is called freezer and all those things. So that is helpful for maintaining the food for a long time. But the point is that if the food is kept in that way, that means in the way he has mentioned, if it is stale, tasteless, stinking, cooked overnight, and refuse and impure, then actually those who like that, he is saying tamosika. That means it will induce sleep and mind will not really work if somebody takes tamosika. Sleepiness and all those things will come. So the point is that in this way we can figure out by simple change of our habits of the food, we can go to the, that means we can improve our spiritual prospect, if you call it. So there are other things also he has said, that means that which will be interesting to us. Let me make a little shortcut. So there are type of work is also he has mentioned, that means free from attachment. If somebody does work free from attachment, egotism, with fortitude, enthusiasm, unaffected by success or failure, without desire for reward. So all work, we are always working. So if we have this type of philosophy, or a person who has accomplished to that, actually he is following the path of Sattvika, that means which will lead to spirituality. Now there are other workers also, that means they are working attached to the selfish interest, anxious for fruits of actions for the satisfaction of desires or vanity, greed, violent, easily elated, downcast, prone to fear and worry. That type of work, that means certain work or the attitude of the work, if you call it, if it's like this, actually that person's mind will be disturbed. Rajasic means, that means mind will always be in a disturbed condition. So this type of attitude towards the work actually brings this type of disturbances in the mind. Then there is a third category, which is tamas, unsteady, arrogant, deceitful, despondent, and procrastinating. That is the point. So a person who does work in that way, or if we do work in that way, actually it will be very bad in a sense from the point of view of spirituality, it will be very negative. That is the point. Then we know in our society or in our day-to-day life, living in the society, we have to offer gifts also, exchange of gifts. Though in the Yoga Sutra, in other places also it is said that, well, the receiving of gifts actually is not very good for the spiritual seeker. But you cannot help, that means sometimes you have to receive gifts. So as a corollary it is said, if you receive it, just to reciprocate it when the occasion comes. So in this way actually the gift works. But there is another way, that means another aspect of the giving gift is there. Suppose you do not you give the gift to a person, he does not have the ability to return it. That means he does not have the ability to what is called, or he cannot return your gift in a sense. That means he cannot, on other occasions actually, he cannot really make you happy by giving a gift. Gifts given with compassion at the right time, at a right place, without a desire to return is called sattvika. So whenever you make a gift, do not expect that you want something in return. Most of our gifts are given just to please somebody. That is the thing. Mother's Day, mothers will be happy, and in that way actually do. Father's Day is coming, just give a watch or pen or something like that, just to make the person happy. But if you just give something which is without expectation, so suppose you saw something suddenly, oh, you felt that, well, this definitely will be very useful to my father or mother or anybody, friend or something. So just to make, just to give that so that it will be useful to him and do not expect anything in return. So that will be very good. That is called sattvika. The point is that if you expect a return, then actually mind will be engaged in that type of thoughts, and will say, oh, he did not give me a gift on my birthday birthday or something like that, though I gave him a gift on such and such occasion. So those things actually toleration and disturbing to the mind. So Rajasic gifts are also gives grudgingly, aiming return. That means everybody is giving the gift. And in that way, I have also given, otherwise probably I shall not give the, I shall not be in the good books of that person. It may happen like that. You know, recently the marriage of this royal marriage was there, so people get gifts. That means to the, what is called, to the newly married royal family. So they love, that means there are persons even now who actually find great joy in having the royal family or events of the royal family. So even they do not, probably they will never get any return, but just to express their joy or happiness in a distant way, in a support, whatever you call it, they send gifts. That means these are the things. Then of course they distribute them on the poor people or whatever it may be. Now, tamasic is also there. Those who are following the wrong path, you can say, they give gift in the wrong place, or to a wrong person at a wrong time, and in a wrong way also, grudgingly. Let me give it in that way, let it take this way. So grudgingly, that means there is no way of what is called appreciation or anything, just asking, just give. And in that way they give it. That does not work from the spiritual point of view. Then we do worship also. Worships are there. We do here worship, and also many people do their worship. Worship, of course, there are many ways to worship. It is not always ritualistic, but mentally also do. And even the repetition of the name is also is considered to be a type of worship. So in that way, people do. So there should be some motive behind that. So Lord Krishna is saying that yes, there are ways by which actually this worship can be done. So first is that those who are really do worship just for the as a part of superstition. That means they do not know why they are doing it. Somebody said that to do that, or sometimes they do worship for the bad thing of others also. It may happen like that. There are, that means in our Puranas and other things, there some people did worship just to end the life of an enemy, or in that way, with that type of what is called dire consequences also people do worship. And also there are some other worship with the expectation of a result. That means, yes, if I please God, probably I shall get money, or I shall get a rise, or maybe what is called my obstacles will be gone. In that way also we do worship. Lord Krishna, of course, in another place has said, even that is good from the point of view of starting or remembering God. As a beginning, or as a beginner, if somebody does something remembering God, that is the beginning. That means that also he appreciates. That means he has said that it is a seed that has been grown, but slowly, slowly that person will understand that, well, this is, he will have to actually overgrow that. That is the point. Slowly, slowly he will have to come to sattvika type of worship. Then, of course, it is said that austerities also are there. That means when austerities are done, as I told you, that's worship and all those things, or meditation and all those things, or pleasing some gods and goddesses are there for the, what is called, to harm others it is done, it is called tamasika. And when it is that to gain respect or power or to show also. Sri Ramakrishna has said that, well, this person does the worship. At the time of worship, actually he wears silken cloth with what is called beads with gold, and what is called covered with gold and all those things, and then puts some tilak. That means he is doing something spiritual. In that way, there is a great show. It is called rajasika. That is the point. But those who practice this type of worship, which is clean, without offending others, and recite a sacred text to say in self-control and silently, that type of practice is really very good. That is called, so that is no show. That means probably he is mentally repeating something, mentally doing something, and in a place, secluded place, and just for the gain of spirituality. And that type of worship and austerity, spiritual austerities are really very good. So the point is this, that as I told you, this is the season of practice of austerities. There are many types of austerities that are said. But simple things that in the Ramadan, as I told you, the control of the food and control of study of the scriptures and doing charities and all those things are common thing. That means basic thing for any spiritual, any religion. So in all religions these are recommended. And if we do carefully in a sense, that means if we know why we are doing and what will be the objective of this thing, then actually these things become really very fruitful. That is the point.